Welcome to Legends of Grayskull, the podcast that dives deep into the mythology of Masters of the Universe, with your hosts Matthew Dooch and Sean Scavana. News, reviews, remasterings and more are just ahead on Legends of Grayskull.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 82 of Legends of Grayskull, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic, and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, Nordor, Primus, New Adventures, Old Adventures, Ladybird, UK Annals, comics, mini-comics, anything and everything you can think of with that He-Man, She-Ra, Master Universe, Princess of Power, even that faking logo on it. I'm Matthew Dooch, here again with Sean Scavana. Sean, how are we doing today?
Can't complain. There's no wind chill. I know you were saying there's wind chill where you are. There's no wind chill.
There is that wind chill, that polar vortex, that severe advisory. It is 2 degrees right now and sunny in Indiana. But yeah, it is bitter. It is bitter for sure. So what you been up to?
Well, this morning it was get up and jump on Disney Plus to make sure I got to see the Book of Boba Fett before spoilers ensued. And beyond that, just same old, same old.
I still have not started that yet, and I don't know what's keeping me from it. Just, I haven't. I
Really?
And it's weird, too, because Boba Fett was one of those guys, right? Like, original trilogy where, like, oh, he's the coolest bounty hunter. He didn't do shit in the movies, really.
Nope. No.
You can't really... tangent, guys. I know. Legends of Grayskull going on a tangent. Who can believe it? But...
This is the first.
The biggest thing you can give him is, like, the capture of Han Solo, which he had nothing to do with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was Vader handing it to him.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, at best, he tracked him from the Star Destroyer, but
yeah,
come on. But for some reason, this guy was like the coolest MFer, like growing up. Like everybody loved him, everybody wanted to be him, like everyone wanted to know more about him.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, seeing him in The Mandalorian and I'm not going to go too deep, but there might be minor spoilers if you guys haven't seen it yet. If you guys don't know, Boba Fett is alive, spoiler alert. He showed up in The Mandalorian, and now he's got this spin-off series, but, like, I don't know, The Mandalorian just didn't do it for me. For some reason, like, seeing him... It's one of those things, like, where it seems like the more I get to know about him, the less interesting he is. Like, he was just that cool guy... because he was a mystery, maybe? I don't know. It's kind of how I felt about Wolverine when they got into that era of where, like, origins and all that in the comics where they're like, yeah, it was this, he's this and this and this, and it's like, well, now he's not as cool. Because he was like a whiny, sick British kid.
yeah, James Howlett, and that whole thing. Yeah, like when I was talking to my mom about it because my mom was a really big Star Wars, and she still is. She really loves Star Wars, and like she and I have gotten into rants with each other about directions the brand has taken in the last few years and stuff. But we were talking about it, and like two of my favorites were always 3PO and R2 when I was a kid because shiny metal robot guy and little attitude trash can rolling around. I love that, and that they were pointed more at my age group when those movies were out. Anyway, sure. They did their job with that. But she's like, yeah, the other one, like I was like Han and Chewie, and then she's like, yeah, Boba Fett. You were all about him. I was like, I was. And I'm like, I had good taste. But then when you look at, like you said, when you see the original trilogy, and even like in the prequels, they have Jango and Boba and all this stuff.
Right.
And the problem about it, and there even is this problem within Masters, actually, it's the whole, what interests you, and that is your take on it until there's another thing that comes out to say, but it was this. Yeah. That, like me when I was a kid, the mini comics were my canon. Then Filmation is telling me it's something else. And I was like, no, this is, And it's sort of the same deal where it's like Boba Fett was basically a blank canvas that you could just go crazy with for the longest time. If you didn't, I know they had novels, like the novels to fill in the gap, expanded universe stuff. But if you want to just paint your own idea of who he was, and then all of a sudden these shows start coming out to go, but really he's the 60-year-old dude, and now he's this, and now he's doing this, and it's like, for me, I'm a casual Star Wars guy. I have my opinions, but I'm not a Star Wars, live or die Star Wars person. But the mythology is interesting enough.
We're not Kyle Moore. We have not read every book and every comic and everything else. No, I've watched all the movies. I've seen some of the TV shows, and I've read a handful of the books. Like, that casual at best. And I don't know. I guess I was good with Boba just being like in the Sarlacc pit. I'd heard things about even the novelizations. He escaped. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the old Boba Fett. It's the. I thought it was kind of odd, honestly, at the end of The Mandalorian when he went and killed Bib Fortuna and took Jabba's throne. I was like, why? Like, I guess I just didn't get. So from that scene not being just more like, well, that was weird. Like, it just has not made me want to go into a series about that.
Well, I'll give this to you. Like when the show premiered, I was like, oh yeah. It wasn't like must see. It was more like, oh yeah, that came out. So I sat down and I checked it out, and the first 2 episodes, I give those pretty decent ratings. But then the middle 2, and it's all over social media if you follow any of this stuff. The third one for some people went off the rails, and then the 4th one kind of got it a little back on course. And now this one today was like Christmas for me. I was sitting there grinning from ear to ear, going, "This is the episode I wanted." There is one problem with it. And I won't get into the spoilers of that because it literally just came out this morning for people. But it is ironic. Let's just put it this way. It's ironic, the name of the show, but it's ironic what they do with this episode is all. And what's funny to me is somebody like me, like I'd rather sit there and watch 10 episodes of The Mandalorian day in and day out. That's just me. And like the new stuff that is not connected to the old is more interesting for the fact that you can do a lot more with it and have flexibility compared to if you're honed in on the Skywalker stuff, the Vader stuff, even the Boba Fett stuff somewhat. There is this, we're pulling these expectations like chains behind us, like Marley's Ghost. It's like we have all these expectations from how many years, 40 years. And it's like, I kind of like when they play with the new stuff because we don't have that problem. It's just, you just go on an adventure with this character and you just enjoy it, And
some people have been there since 77. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean?
My mother was.
Right. So, it's always much more freeing and intriguing. Like, okay, this has no connection to anything. We can do anything we want to do. So
I think that's why I am the way I am even about Masters. You have so many preconceived ideas of what this should be if you come back to it. Like not going into the Revelation thing, but Revelation was proof of that. There are expectations that all the old OG fans were all about. Like, I want to see this and this and this. Or they better do this and this and this. And that is the problem, is unless you have somebody that wants to give that to you, you are, and I've said this, it's like, you're going to be forced to, this is something different. You're going to have to either accept it and enjoy it, or see what it is and just go, well, these things I like or not, or just, those are like your 3 options. You love it, you're okay with it, or you just run from it, and disavow it,
But then on the flip side, like we've said, then CGI He-Man comes out on Netflix and basically is either, I've seen mostly praise for it or enjoyment, And then there's a few people that's like, yeah, I'm just not going to watch it. But you don't get
Yeah.
that. You don't get that hate because people are not, because they went into it without the notions, or they're just not interested in even exploring it. Speaking of which, did you see the leaked image of Stratos for the CGI line?
I did.
That was interesting.
It was.
I will after we're done recording. I am going to post it on the Legends of Grayskull Facebook group, so take a look at it there if you haven't seen it yet. Probably could have gotten a picture to throw up on screen, but I was being lazy this morning, so deal with it. So what do you think about Stratos?
Not what I expected, but that is what the whole show is. All of it is not what I expect, and then I wait to see what it plays out like, and either I love it or I hate it. But out of the design so far, I'd say he's the one where I'm just like, that's it. Like all the others are souped up in a way, and I feel like that one is just kind of like, that's it. So,
well, I'll give
this could be the first one that I'm like, whatever, you know.
And again, remember, low res photo. There's like a screenshot of a photo of a post. Like it's so we're low res. We're on a store shelf somewhere. I'm assuming, or maybe it's just like a dealer room. Like maybe this is something picture Mattel took for like Toy Fair that didn't happen. I don't know, but maybe it's a shot of an in package Stratos. So that, actually, the best look you got is kind of on the box art, which box art is box art. But I guess for me, the suit is very much what I expected. It's very tech based, which all the masters have been so far. It looks like a flight suit. You know, it's got the aviator helmet. It's got, you know, kind of the Falcon, you know, however you want to look at it. You know, that kind of becoming traditional superhero flight suit. Like, I've got flight power, so I've got this kind of suit, you know?
Yeah.
And it looks very futuristic, silvers and everything. And I guess the biggest part for me is the person in the suit. Because with Stratos, you are very used to that ape man, monkey, you know, look. And this just looks like another Eternian, as far as I can see. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, where I'm like,
I'm having emails coming in left and right. It's one of those days.
I'm like, did everybody hear that, or was that just me?
Excuse me.
But yeah, I think that was my biggest, like, because that was my, you know, like, I don't want just an Eternian in there. Like, he should be more creature-esque.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there, because that was kind of the mystique about him when I was a kid, was, what is he? You know, like he was unquantifiable. It was like he almost had like bird-looking eyes. If you want to look at how those goggles fit him, if they were goggles or what, and then the monkey part. But then he had wings, and I mean the other thing too. If not to get into a whole thing with this about race or whatever, but there was this surprise of, from the look of it, the skin tone was a little darker than He-Man's, for instance. Which made me then go, that makes it a little weird in some ways to me, because there was that feeling of, you know, you probably shouldn't cast somebody who is you know, an ethnic look, or you know, of another race other than white in that kind of a role, because of the ape monkey aspect. So I'm like, okay, they're taking that away completely. It's going to be, he's just going to be a technological dude in a flight suit, and they'll call themselves the avian. Again, rolling back into the same way like the Mandalorians are just people, but that's their race or whatever. That's their moniker or whatever you want to call it. So
yeah, that's
I can live with that, to be honest. That it doesn't bother me, but it is like you know, when you first see it, at least.
He's at least as dark as Tila in the new show, if not possibly a bit darker.
He reminded me of 2000X Zodak when I saw it.
Very much.
There was that feeling there.
Yeah. Which, like you said, I'm fine with, except for the fact, like, I'm good with seeing more characters of ethnicity in here, but I expected him to be a flying monkey, I guess is the big thing for me. I do like the wings. We can't really see them in package, but it looks like they still come on the forearm. They're a translucent yellow from the look of it. And you know, I love my translucence.
Translucence, yes.
Yes. So I'm excited. I'm ready to see what he looks like or how he acts in the show. But yeah, I expected a monkey, and you know that was always a question too. Growing up, it's like, well, is he a flying monkey? Is he a monkey that has a flight power? Does he have a flight suit? Like, are the wings his or not? You know what I mean? Like that was always one of the good mysteries growing up. It's like, are those organic wings? Are they strapped on wings? Like, what gives? You know, it was all those questions, which, like you said, that's about the only part I'm disappointed in. It's like, oh, he just got his Falcon suit. You know, that's...
It
all depends on how they handle them.
Exactly. And my major hope after seeing that, and also we saw the Manny Faces figure recently as well, that made me hope this means that season 2 should be coming around the corner here, because now we're getting these leaked things. It's like, well, okay, hopefully it's only a matter of time before we get the announcement that season 2 is about to hit, because bring it.
I would assume so if all these figures are. I mean, that was a production piece of Stratos. They got the large trap jaw we've seen. You know, the Battle Cat came out recently. I think Beastman shouldn't be far behind. So, I mean, they're still pumping it out. And the fact that, like you said, the fact that they are kind of slowly revealing these new characters, I mean, we got to be close. So,
yeah,
I'm excited for it. So yeah, let's jump in. So today we are actually as far away from CGI He-Man as we just about can be. We're going old school today. As most of you know, and we talked about it on the show, the documentary Faking Filmation, which is going to follow James Eatock and Dusan Mitrovic as they kind of their process of creating their Filmation homage episode, The Return of Faker, and their journey to make it and try and get it out to the fans as just kind of a love letter to Filmation. I mean, they don't want any monetary gain from it. They're not trying to market it. They both have a great passion for Filmation, and they wanted to create an episode, and they did, and they have not been successful thus far in actually getting it out. I mean, it was finished back in 2019. So, and but as a Christmas present to all the backers, they did release this work in progress look at it that you can see on their Vimeo page. And if you're not a backer, if you didn't back on Kickstarter or Indiegogo originally, they did open up Indiegogo again. So you can get in, you can back, and you can see this hour-long special that they put together to talk about the process, what they did, and you get to see the scenes of Return of Faker as they stand right now. So, Sean, when did you... So this dropped Christmas Eve, if I recall correctly. How long before you watched it for the first time?
It was not on Christmas Eve, because Christmas Eve is crazy around here. It was I want to say probably a day or two after Christmas. I got James's holiday card he sends out every year.
Yes.
And to this day, I'm still completely blown away that I'm a part of the group that he wants to send that out to. And thank you, as always, James. It's one of the... It makes me just smile to think of the community and the people, and the fact that, you know, I feel like I'm a little guy and he still remembers me. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And I said, you know, I hope you had a good holiday with the family and everything. And he goes, and don't forget. And I'm like, oh, I will do it right now. And I literally that minute I just popped it in and I started watching it. I want to say it was probably the day after Christmas, or maybe it was the 27th, something like that.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I actually just watched it for the first time this morning because like we talked about before, I needed to be in. I know I'm trying to make it sound less creepy this time, but
you needed to be in the mood.
I needed to. Not so much as I needed to be in the right mood, but I needed to not be in the wrong mood. You know, there have been movies and stuff that I've watched over the years where I actually thought of one because I couldn't come up with an example last time. The original Mummy with Brendan Fraser Mummy, the first one. I watched that when I was home sick one day for the first time. And that is a movie I did not come back to for a long. I didn't make it through that day, and I did not come back to it for a while because I'm just like, oh, that was garbage. Like I couldn't even make it through. I did not enjoy it. Like the bits I saw, I'm like, oh no. And my friends were like, dude, what are you talking about? Like it's an awesome movie. And I don't know how you feel about it, but so then later down the road, I went back and watched. I'm like, this is amazing. Like I love this movie. And I love it to this day. Honestly, the Mummy and Mummy Returns with the Brendan Fraser ones are phenomenal movies.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm just kind of like that. Like if I'm in a bad mood, if I'm not feeling well, like if like that all kind of rolls into how I perceive stuff, whether it be watching something, reading something, whatever. So I wanted to make sure like there was none of that. Like I needed kind of the perfect day. And as you said, around the holidays, there's a lot of stuff going on. Not that it's necessarily bad, but I mean, you're busy, you're running, you're thinking about what you have to do, what you haven't done. You know, there's just so much going on. I'm like, I'm not doing this right now. So
yeah.
But today was a good day. I sat down, I watched it finally, and spoilers going forward here, guys. So if you haven't seen it, if you plan on watching it, turn this off. Go back, go load your Vimeo, whatever you gotta do, go watch it. But yes, I finally watched it, and short answer is that my hat is off to James and Doosan and everybody else who worked on this. I've seen a lot of different fan projects over the years, and I have to say this is the best one I've ever seen.
Yeah, I reached out to him after watching it, and I said something along the lines of, "You've created my favorite episode of Filmation ever." You know, like that was like for me, like I always go to House of Shakoti, but the reason I always go to House of Shakoti is the simple fact it made me scared that I didn't know what was going to happen, and it dealt with fear, and it dealt with all this stuff. The Skeletor wasn't even a thing in that one. So it took like a lot of stakes and made them higher because it took a lot of the safety net off in that episode. And it affected me in that way. It affected me with all of the darkness and the evil and like the Lovecraftian parts. But
Well,
I was
just going to say, do you think even it might have just been just because it was so different, it gave you stuff that you never thought you'd see?
Exactly.
Like,
It went for some things where, like on He-Man, yes, there'd be guest villains and these random people that would show up, but they never took it to the extent of how that episode did. They never went into, like, when you went up against some of these guys, they were just sometimes people with barbarian helmets on, you know, in certain cases, or, you know, and there was always this, it was never an establishment for that villain within a 20-minute episode. It always kind of felt like they are the problem of the day. He-Man will get you through this. Versus here's a two-parter, and this is what we're dealing with. You know, and it went to some places I was amazed by as a kid, and I still love it. But this one does it in the framework of the villains that we know and love.
Yep.
and it does it so well to make number one, it is fun to just go, that's Faker. That is Faker. True, and no pun intended, true blue Faker is right there. And then on top of that, just the fact that you get the actual, here's the evil warriors and everything. It's like, man, it felt like home just watching it for that reason alone. So
I completely agree, and it hit a lot of little things for me. So, I hearing about their process too. So for those of you who don't know, haven't gotten a chance to see it, I'll kind of paraphrase here. But so basically, traditional animation is script, storyboard, animation, dialogue. With them using everything from kind of the Filmation library, they had to go almost backwards. So James wrote his script. He then had to find the dialogue. Then they had to animate to the dialogue. So, all whilst trying to stay as true as possible to that Filmation stock system. And that process alone to me sounds so incredibly daunting. Like, even though James and his encyclopedic knowledge of Filmation is the only way this could have worked. Because while I could definitely, some of those lines I could pull in my head where they came from, but to actually write an entire script using, only phrases that had come before, or slight manipulation. I'm sure they spliced together some lines, but even then, trying to get them floated, like just the thought of trying to get the dialogue to me is like enough for me to go like, well, that was a fun idea. What else can we do? I'm like the perseverance and the stamina of these guys to be able to do this, frame by frame, piece of dialogue by piece of dialogue. It took them, I think he said, about 3 years, and it would have taken me a lifetime.
Well, I mean, you got to start with that idea that you can't let go of. And when you see how the story of this goes, number one, I always felt that, Faker originally on the show, it was a huge disservice to the fact, here we're going to have He-Man with glowing eyes. And as a kid, I even was like, really? Like, why can't you just color him? Like, I mean, it's not like it's, that was always something that it felt like it was an unused thing for the show. And so, for him to want to put that in there and actually make it, here is the legit, this is how, how we did it, like Young Frankenstein did in that book and all that. It's like, it's cool. But then when you see what he does inside the episode and inside the story, like some of those points that he makes in here are ones where I'm just like, I would not have been able to walk away from this idea and not figure out how to get it done, because I didn't expect him to go where he went with it. And he pulls stuff that it never has happened in Filmation.
Right.
And that's part of why I absolutely love it.
No, I completely agree. I don't want to do a full breakdown here because I feel there's a lot of stuff for people to dig into and everything. But I guess we can kind of hit some of the highlights for us. Let's try it that way. I don't want to give away the whole thing, but to start off with the early scene with Man-at-Arms, He-Man, and Teela in the hangar bay. It was a good scene. It was nice to see all of our, the core trio, right? Like, it was always Man-at-Arms, Teela, and He-Man. I'm kind of sad that Man-at-Arms didn't come on the adventure with them. But, you know what I actually noticed during that scene? Was all the little background stuff that was going on. Because that's the kind of stuff that you didn't get back then. You can see the silhouettes of palace guards, walking in the background. Shot of Man-Arms, and you see like the control room up top, with the windows, and you can see somebody inside that window, like moving around and working.
Mhm.
It was the little stuff like that where I'm like, okay, like they're obviously this is a love letter to Filmation, but at the same time they're kind of going like they're kind of bringing it up to today's standards,
Yeah.
if you would. Like
Mhm.
you wouldn't have all that especially in like the palace where there should be people everywhere, and
Mhm.
they put them in there, little things like that where I'm like, the eyes were the big thing I noticed on everybody. There was a lot more, just kind of just looking around, like eyes getting wider, squinting a little bit. Like the Filmation did that, like when they were making a point, but this one
Mhm.
seemed a lot more natural and often. So I kind of like that they took the opportunity to not just go like, hey, obviously we can copy Filmation,
Yeah.
but let's try and punch it up just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, and the other thing about it that I saw the image of it in part of their lead up, the publicity leading
Mhm.
up to the campaign when it was announced. But even going to like an Alfredo Alcala influenced,
I
he
I didn't see
holding
that.
up.
I saw
Yeah,
that in the
yeah.
episode for the first time. I did not see that image before, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, for somebody like me, that made me happy just because that's and especially that's an iconic look
Right.
from the mini comics as well. And just the whole He-Man holding up Beast Man over his head
Yeah.
from the mini comics, and in this one, it's Faker doing it though, but
Right.
it still works.
Yeah, it's still
Just
that.
because,
It's I recognize that pose immediately. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right. No,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a lot of it. I mean, there was the new stuff they used, and I've heard that they use stuff like Brave Star. I've heard was a big uh, source of inspiration because
Mm-hmm.
they could do because Brave Star was animated in the same style. Honestly, Brave Star was even punched up a little higher because that was after He-Man and She-Ra. Watching that,
Yeah.
I feel like even the Filmation artists at the time of Brave Star were kind of like, how can we push this a little bit more? A little
Mm-hmm.
more expressive, a little more fluid, a little, you know. So I know there was a couple moments from that they kind of borrowed from that in here, um,
Mm-hmm.
in the fight scenes. I don't. There's just one shot of Tila towards the end in the dungeon. I don't know where they pulled it from, but it's a beautiful shot of Tila. It might even be oh, what's her name from Flash Gordon, the redhead in Flash Gordon. It might be pulled from that. Honestly, it might be one of her poses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can even recall the pose I'm talking about, but
I'll have to watch it again. I
yeah.
meant to watch it again last night. And I did not get a chance, but
But there's this one
um,
very, let's be honest, very sexy shot of Tila toward in the dungeon. No, she just turns and she's got like the hand on her hip and everything, and it's
mhm.
like I can picture it from somewhere, but I can't. I want to say Flash Gordon. I can't remember her name, but I'm betting they based it on that. Uh, so what about you? What was a highlight for you from the show?
Well, I mean, other than the big spoiler moments, one thing I absolutely loved was seeing the blueprints to Mattel's Snake Mountain floating
Yes,
around Snake Mountain itself,
that whole
and
B
the whole
plot.
don't let them know about this and all that stuff, and just the that whole thing. I absolutely loved that because the minute they did it, I was just like, look at that, that's great, because
Yeah, the
there
B.
is it's the Faker thing. It's we had He-Man with glowing eyes, now we have legit Faker, and it's
Right.
almost the same thing as well. We're also gonna throw in that one because that's how the toy was. That's what you had as a kid versus what Filmation drew initially, and
Yeah, they.
I got a kick out of
No, that whole kind of
that.
subplot, the evil warriors are trying to build a base of their own to kind of leave Skeletor and do their own thing, and the
Hmm.
Merman comes up with the design, and it's actually lifted right from the style guide from
Yeah.
Mattel for Snake Mountain is what it is, and excuse me. Oh, yeah, that made me chuckle. I'm like that. That's a great little subplot there.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I liked. I mean, I guess we can just go to some of the big moments because that's where my mind goes to.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about the end battle because obviously that's a big thing of the episode, right? Is the battle between He-Man and Faker, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll save that for last. But I was really surprised that they didn't they didn't go like color change Faker at all. Like they didn't go like straight He-Man imposter Faker. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
kind of tricks Orko, but it's dark, it's night, there's shadow. You know, same thing with the
Mm-hmm.
Evil Warriors. Like when they can't get a clear look, and they're like, "Oh, that's He-Man." So that was
Mm-hmm.
a little interesting. That because I think that's where everybody goes. I mean, we saw it in Revelation. That was the plan for Mike Young Productions. Like that's kind of just the UK comics did it with Faker. So that was interesting that they didn't go to that plot like of Faker straight up impersonating He-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
and
like that.
well, that's what I was, honestly, it was refreshing. Like I
Yeah.
didn't see it going that way. The whole time I've heard about this, I kind of assumed it would follow those similar beats. Skeletor creates Faker. Faker impersonates He-Man. Everyone thinks He-Man has turned evil. He-Man's got to, show he hasn't. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's where I thought the story was going, and it didn't. So that was
Mm-hmm.
nice. I'm like, oh, this is like this is fun. I didn't see this coming. You know?
Yeah. The thing about it that I was impressed by just from I can't win today. I keep on making the noises. I even turned the sound down, or I put it on silent mode, but it's still going to do it anyway. They really like James really did push a lot of the like a Frankenstein's monster aspect to the way that Faker was characterized, his personality, and I liked that Skeletor is kind of like Dr. Frankenstein, where he's so proud he's created this, and it's going to be the thing to finally take He-Man out and everything. And I love when all the other evil warriors see Faker, they all take a turn trying to take him down, and he's wrecking everything.
Right.
And what was interesting is that B plot makes sense because they probably would have had to go that route if this would have succeeded.
Right.
Because in all honesty, Skeletor only needed Faker at that point because Faker just wrecks everything. And they do make it like he's a freaking force to be reckoned with in this one compared to the original one they did in Filmation. And I really enjoyed that too, because I kind of liked if this would have been an episode, like say for instance, not to clash the two, but if this was Mike Young, for instance, Mike Young Productions, this would have been a story that I could see going throughout a season because they have it set up in a way where Faker really is a one-man army. And I would love to even see him looking at Skeletor going, I don't need you either, knocking him off the board and having him be almost like a third, instead of Hordak, having him be the third power within Eternia to fight it out between the groups or something, because they really did make it into, like Skeletor really didn't need anyone other than him this episode, And
I like how they portrayed Faker. I'm like, honestly, I'm still unsure of. There were times where it felt like Faker thought he was He-Man. Like he seemed legitimately confused. Like, He-Man? I'm He-Man. Like, it's like, well, how much of that is... He seemed like a real messed up dude. Like, he's...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I never got a clear read on, does he know he's a robot? Does he not? Does he think he's He-Man? Does he, And that was a nice twist. I like the way they explained his power. They used the, Manar's, he's going to, whatever you give to him, he's going to kind of like take that energy and convert it back 10 times. Like, so that, and that explains how a robot can go toe to toe with He-Man, So, And you know me, I like my explanations.
Yeah.
If you're gonna tell me this can happen, tell me why.
Well, and if you're gonna do it in a way where it's meaningful, because
Yes.
like I keep going back to it, but the original version of this did not make me that interested in that figure. When Filmation did it, it was just like, here is Robot He-Man. Boom. That's all you got. But when you start adding in these levels of power and how that works, then yeah, that makes that figure a heck of a lot more fun when you're sitting there after the show's over and going, I gotta pull out Faker today. We gotta go at this, and really make it that He-Man's digging deep to fight this thing finally, instead of it just being, a bunch of parts that you're throwing at him, like the original version.
Agreed. Last thing I want to talk about before we get to the final battle, which is the crux of the episode, let's be honest.
Sure.
The flirting between He-Man and Teela. I really like that. I know people disagree with me, but I'm one even from childhood, like I wasn't overly interested in the romantic angle as a child, but I was always like, Superman's got Lois Lane, Peter's got MJ,
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, it was always a component, like, oh, the superhero has to have his girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
He-Man, for the most part, didn't. I mean, I always felt it was Teela. Come to find out, apparently, a lot of other people read things differently than I did, but I always felt that He-Man and Teela were that duo, that potential couple, and Filmation only kind of got to it a couple times throughout their whole run, so it was nice just to kind of see that little bit of back and forth between them, and they're both kind of. I was both kind of. It's amazing that he did all this with dialogue that just recycled. At the end of the day, it's recycled, and that's no dig. It is, But for him to get those kind of emotions where it's like they're flirting, they're kind of backing off, they're kind of like, no, I'm really serious. Like, all those little innuendos to pull for, just to pull that performance out of recycled dialogue is amazing.
Well, yeah, and I mean I caught like, granted, I am the lesser of anybody talking about this when it comes to Filmation, but I caught a few lines where I knew it was from, but they updated it enough through one way or another. There was something going on to make me go, I know where that's from, but it was used here, and I get that. That's cool or whatever. But it is a testament to the fact that they could do it the way they did it, and it never took me out of watching it. It never took me out of the story and everything else they were doing. It was almost the equivalent of, like, the one that I remember the most is when Faker goes up to Trapjaw, is, let me give you a hand, and he pulls his
that was exactly
his blaster
from Diamond Ray of Disappearance.
It was Diamond Ray of Disappearance. Yeah. But never once did I go, wait a minute. It was almost the equivalent in No Way Home of when Norman does, well, I'm something of a scientist myself. It's like, it was just a nod. It almost had that feeling to it.
That's exactly.
They just swiped it.
That's exactly the example I was about to use to explain it was Norman Osborn in No Way Home. Yeah, it's that little homage, that little wink to the camera. Like, no, he's got He-Man's kind of personality. Like, Skeletor did some tinkering there where he's like, no, I'm gonna make you a robot double. Like, you're gonna do what I say, but you're kind of He-Man, And,
they did this thing with his personality where I looked at it as, yes, he's He-Man, but he was taunting a lot, and I like that about it, because that definitely made the differentiation. It's like, He-Man, he'll have his one-liners in Filmation. But in this one, it's like everything the Faker said, there was like a jab going on to it. And it was, some of it was the vocal, like there was something audio-wise in the way they made it turn into like a taunt versus it just being how John Irwin delivered it in the 80s. And I loved how that underlined his character for me in the, it's like, this is the Faker dialogue. The He-Man dialogue is its own thing, and when you put those together, you can still tell this is the characters, and it's even with the reuse of the dialogue that way.
It's that twisted. It's almost it's the
Bizarro
angle. Honestly,
Yes.
it's like
Yep.
no, you think you're Superman, but really everything's distorted. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It was very, very well done. So the final battle, after everything else, and trust me, guys, there's a lot more. We're trying to leave as much on the table for you guys as we can. I don't think both of us are going to be able to control talking about a huge moment in the final battle, but uh, and for those of you who don't know, when James and Doosan first started this, they did not set out to do an episode. This actually started as, how about we do a scene? And that scene was, let's show a scene of He-Man and Faker, real Faker, as Sean keeps saying, true blue Faker, fighting. And that's kind of where this started. And then they're like, well, why don't we give them a reason to fight? And they're like, okay, well, Faker kidnaps Orko. And it just kind of all just kept spitballing from there until we wind up with what we've now got to see. And then, honestly, thanks to the Kickstarter backers, we're actually going to get even more. They're adding additional scenes to this. So, but that's kind of the genesis of it. So obviously a huge chunk of the second act is He-Man and Faker fighting. And it is the scene. I'm not going to say it's the scene I wanted to see in Filmation when I was growing up, because going back to my kid mind, I felt like Filmation had a lot of great battles. Growing up and watching it now through my adult lens, I'm like, okay, they really didn't fight that much. But to me, they did as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's... Your mind filled in the blank. He-Man punched the screen and it cut to someone flying. Like, your mind filled that blank in. So to me, it was like, knockout, drag-out fights. So I'm going to say that this scene takes me back to what I saw as a kid. But I actually get to see it all this time instead of half of it being played in my head.
Yeah. When you put that theme song against any action sequence they did, it was hard not to put more emphasis into that, because that damn He-Man theme song is one of my favorite from childhood, and it's still to this day. Like, I like the Revelation stuff. Bear McCreary, he did great. He did a great job. But when I still hear that opening of the Shuki Levy score, it's like,
yes.
Yeah, it's like that's in my DNA at this point. Even that I'm not the biggest Filmation guy, but that is just, it was my childhood. There's no way around it.
It's my main ringtone. It always will be. You know what I mean?
So, it's like it helps. It paints that image. It paints that epicness because of that, to underline and underscore the scenes. But yeah, in this one, I was sitting there going, oh, they're doing what I would have done playing on my floor in my bedroom now. It's like we're seeing them not pulling punches. We're seeing them go head to head. And this is the version of Filmation I've always hoped to see, and they pull it off. They really did proud with that.
And same kind of thing, right? Like there's those parts in it where it's like, oh, I get where they're pulling that from. Case in point, Faker pinning He-Man to the wall with that giant rock, straight out of Dragon Invasion. Except in there, it's He-Man pinning Beastman to the wall. So again, it's that same kind of thing we talked about with the dialogue. It's like, okay, now Faker's using that same move on He-Man. And it's not just like, oh, it's ripped. It's like, no, this is like, they've got the same kind of fighting style. They know what the other's going to do. They're, I mean, they're beating each other up all over Snake Mountain. I mean, it's awesome, and the things they did with the jumps, the leaps, the He-Man like jumping on Faker pushing him off on his back, like they're just, I can't even describe it. Like the acrobatics and stuff that we saw is beyond what I thought we were gonna see.
Mhm.
And, you know, it all culminates in a moment that I'm sure Sean is so ready to talk about. And I didn't see it coming,
Neither
honestly.
did I. Neither
They
did I, but they did it.
it's they're pretty evenly matched. Skeletor and Evelyn are watching, and Skeletor and Evelyn give like all their power to Faker to try and push him up over the hump to, you know, to get the dominating hand over He-Man. And they collide, you know, huge explosion. I'll let Sean take it from here.
And the power of Grayskull gets knocked the F out of He-Man. And I just sat there, jaw on the floor going, James wrote that.
I
like,
couldn't
out of
even,
anybody, I would have never figured it would have been James to write that sequence.
I couldn't even process it for a minute. I'm like, wait, what? Even though we've seen it before. I mean, and no offense, like, but we've seen it before. We saw it in 2000X with the Ramstone. We, you know, we've seen it before, but even still, just in that moment, because I never thought I'd see it in Filmation.
That's the main thing for me is when I watched this, I felt myself being 5 again, whether I wanted to or not. It just took me back down there because all of a sudden you're watching something you know is of your childhood, and then on top of that, it's like, but here's one that you missed.
Right.
So you do sit down with that, that like, 5-6-year-old mentality, like, I'm getting to see something that even old me didn't get to see. And you're watching this the minute they go there because it's never been on the table. Then all of a sudden they do it, and you're just there like, they did it. And they did it in a crucial moment, which makes it so cool. And on top of that, then we get like, cause I absolutely love that bit when he gets it knocked out and you hear Sorcerer scream no, and she's like, oh my god, I got such a kick out of how they did that whole sequence. It was great.
No, yeah, and then she gives, it's on the opposite side, she gives He-Man or Adam at that point. You know, she's even calling Adam. You know, she's like, here, take all the power of Grayskull. And he transforms again and just beats the snot out of Faker. Now I will say that I don't know about you, but when he went to raise a sword again and transform back into He-Man, I expected a variant armor, and I don't know why. But I guess just because of the, you know, her like, here, take all the powers of Grayskull, like my mind was like, Thunder Punch armor? Or, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe movie armor? Like some, you know, I don't know. I just, Flying Fists would have been, I don't know. I just, in my mind, I would just like, now don't get me wrong, I'm not critiquing these guys at all. I'm just saying at that moment, I'm like, ooh, are they going to do something different now that he's got all the power of Grayskull? But his sword does shoot beams now, so that was fun, and a nice little nod to kind of New Adventures where the power sword had that power. And honestly, even Mike Young kind of went there with the snake once it opened up at the end of the series. There, it was able to shoot some glass, so that was fun. We got to see Faker get his harness destroyed, and we got to see the voice recorder, the sticker, you know.
Yeah, reel to reel, yeah.
And I also liked how James took the time to, you know, Skeletor had been watching through his Havoc staff, but after that explosion, the Havoc staff was cracked and he couldn't see anymore. So I like that too, that they're like, okay, we're going to go here, but we're also going to be like, this is why nobody saw it. You know, Tila and Orko get there right after he changes back into He-Man. So it was like, whew, close call. And it made me feel like a kid again. Like I used to feel when Adam couldn't get his sword, or, you know, stuff like that, where it's like, how are we going to do this? Or to save Skeletor when he's like, you know, oh, the cannon's pointing at the ship, I'm going to have to reveal my secret. And you're like, ooh.
Yeah. Well, the best thing is Faker sees.
Faker saw.
That was the best part, because I like that it's like, Skeletor doesn't know, Evelyn doesn't know, but Faker does.
Yep.
So, that again, if this would have kept going, that would have been an interesting plot point to bring back later down the line. So,
well, except for what happens to him.
well, yeah, but it would have been like there's a part of me going, maybe it's like the Roboto thing, even though in Revelation they didn't go back to it, but it's that whole maybe there's still something left. You never know.
The black box is still there.
The black box, yes.
Right. No, I agree, and I like that. I like that final moment where like everyone's like Faker is defeated, torn to bits. But he starts a self-destruct sequence, and the last thing he says after everybody's cleared out because they realize he's about to blow is he's laughing and he's laughing and he's laughing, and then he goes, Prince Adam.
And boom.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and that was when I slammed my hand down on my desk. I'm like, damn it, they did it. Because that was, again, this is why they managed to do it. This is the kind of story that if you would have done it all the time, it would have not been impactful. But the fact that they did this story,
right,
and the way they did it, it was more impactful than I expected it to be. It made me go like, my God, like they gave me the one episode besides Diamond Ray and House of Shakoti where I was like, yes, like this is the stuff I always wanted to see out of this show.
Right. Yeah, just taking it kind of to that next level. It's just a good, fun story. There was honestly at the end of the day, there was nothing too deep or nothing too cataclysmic. You know what I mean? And I'm not, trust me guys, I'm not saying that as a dig. I'm saying that as that's what it should be. Not everything has to be, oh, the planet's going to explode. Oh, existence is coming to an end. Oh, no, it just, Orko's kidnapped. We have to save him. Oh, Skeletor created something really powerful. Let's stop it. That's what I want. That's what I want. At the end of the day, the villains are defeated, the heroes are safe, and we're off to our next journey, our next adventure. That's Filmation. And these guys faked it perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, the CGI show still is pulling those kind of episodes off for me.
Right.
But it was good to come home again. Like it was good to come home. And again, Christmas time. Yep. I always equate Christmas. Masters is one of the things I always have in the back of my head at Christmas. Now, honestly,
because of the amazing He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special. Like, it's just...
No. Not for me, at least. I never will like that. I never will. I just can't. But it goes back to Mark Taylor and the greatness of the line itself, and that Castle Grayskull, and then other Christmases I got like the Fright Zone and Spider, and it's like Masters had that not intricacy, but it was intertwined with Christmas. Because I'd always get the heavy hitter stuff at Christmas time and all that. Right. And here we are where James is like, oh, there's still one left in the bag for you, Yeah. And honestly, if he ever gets the chance to do more, I'm more than happy to watch any other ones he does, because I know there's a lot of people out there that feel he has his finger on the pulse of what they should do with this to continue it. And he was doing the 85 weekly comic strip last summer and all that, which I hope that comes out eventually. The whole thing, I really enjoyed what they did with that so far.
We got to bug him about that again.
Yeah, because we haven't heard anything for a while. But I love that, and also his take on this. So right off the bat, it's like he writes accessible stories that really are. They're love letters to what we embrace about this, and bring on more if he's able to. Please bring more.
Yes, he captures the heart and feel of the 80s. He's if you guys haven't had a chance, he's got the great Serial Geek magazine, which is no longer being published, but there's at least a dozen issues out there. and it's really good stuff celebrating the properties of the 80s. He keeps promising me that he's going to get a YouTube channel going. Still waiting, James. But no, he absolutely captured the feel of Filmation to perfection. And he gets the property, and this is one I will be watching for a long time to come. It is right up there with my favorite episodes. Honestly, if I have one complaint, it's actually that I think the animation looks a little too crisp. Like we've never seen, and I'm completely kidding. I love it. But that was a fun part of this too. Is that we've never. I mean, as great as the DVD quality is, like it'll never be this. You are never gonna get like a 4K version of the classic series. It can't happen. The masters are gone. The tape masters, I mean, obviously. they don't have anything to redo. They're using the taped format. So I remember that feeling of getting the DVDs for the first time after going off the VHSs for years, and it was like, wow, this is so crisp and clear, and the colors are vibrant. But then, like, this is a whole new level where it's like, whew, those lines, look at those, you know? So that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to revisit and kind of get to experience for the first time, really. And they made sure Merman was colored the proper green the whole way through, because the blue was always an error. So it's in the way it was broadcast. I know Doosan's got some posts out there on Facebook. I'm sure you can find about it. But yeah, it was it was the color correction when they went to air it that was wrong. They because the Eternian skies are green, and I hope I'm getting this right. Someone can yell at me if I'm not. But basically, the Eternian skies are green by default, and somebody thought they were supposed to be blue. So then when they color corrected that, they also saw Merman kind of the similar green, and they color corrected it to blue. So he was actually always colored in the green, but it was broadcast as more of a blue.
That's above my pay grade. That's all I know. But
I'm just regurgitating that little bit of
no.
I can remember.
Yeah, I know. The technical stuff is way above my pay grade, but I always look at it from the heart and the intention and the inspiration and the creativity, and anybody who hasn't seen this that is a He-Man fan, who's a Filmation fan especially, you owe it yourself to be part of their Kickstarter / Indiegogo and get to look at this, because if you've ever wanted to feel like a kid again, you get about 25 minutes to feel like a kid again watching it. So
absolutely, check it out. I'm going 10 out of 10. I can't imagine just the level of effort and determination they put into making this, and they captured the feel like perfection to me. There's nothing more I could ask for.
I'm right there with you, 10 out of 10, because like I said, if this was aired in the 80s, this would have been my favorite episode ever, because they knocked the Power Grayskull out of He-Man on Filmation. They didn't do it in MYP. They did it in Filmation.
I can't even imagine how 8-year-old me would have reacted, knowing how 16-year-old me reacted in Mike Young production. It blew my mind. So, 8-year-old me probably would have been catatonic.
I have a feeling, because when I watched 2000X the first times, I had a roommate at the time, and he wanted to watch some with me, and we watched Council of Evil.
Yeah.
And that moment with Cringer jumping across the canyon to save Adam, he and I both jumped up and were like, yeah, So like I can just imagine seeing that for the first time. I would have literally been in front of my TV as a 5-year-old going, you know, like because you never thought that would have ever happened on the show ever. So
I love it.
yeah,
guys, if you haven't yet, I'll put the link down below again. Get on Indiegogo, back them, check this out. Let us know your thoughts about it. You think we can get Yuka to put together a fan episode of Mike Young Productions?
If he could, depending what it is about, I would I would absolutely love seeing something like that.
Come on, Yuka, get on it.
It's like for me, it's more of the what in the case of Filmation, that was a glaring omission, no blue faker.
Yep.
In the case of MYP, I'm sitting here going, what would I want that episode to even be? Because they kind of ended it on a way where you could end it at least, even though it wasn't the greatest ending. So it's like, well, what would that one would he be adapting that comic book
You also got to figure, like with James, he's got 130 episodes.
Yes.
To pull dialogue, stock sequences. You also have She-Ra, you have Bravestar, you have Flash Gordon that were all kind of animated in that Filmation style.
In-house style, yeah.
Whereas Mike Young, you've got 39 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Period. So that would probably be a big hoop to jump through. But if anyone can do it, Yuka can, right?
Well, yeah, I'm open to that. If they want to do a Kickstarter for that,
come on, Yuka!
Hey.
Get off your lazy butt. What else are you doing?
We're
going to table that. That's going to be a good discussion. You know what, guys? Tune in next episode. We haven't done a remastering in a while, and one of our goals this year was to get back to it. So next episode, Sean, we're going to come up with, if there was a fan-made episode of Mike Young Productions, what would it be? Remember, you've got to stick in with what is already there. So we're going to go the same parameters. Like James got away with Faker because he had all that He-Man stuff to pull from. So
that's true.
And I'm not going to let you just choose Faker again for Mike Young.
Yeah, that's because I'm
taking that off the table right away.
He wasn't in it.
It's been done.
Faking Filmation fakers, you know.
The Return of Faker, Mike Young Productions.
The Return of Faker MYP episode. Our subscribers go down through the floor at that point because they're like, hack.
Right.
Yeah.
There's our remastering for next time. Anything else you got before we sign off?
Did you want to talk really quick about a different line that we dabble in from time to time, or did you not want to deal with that today?
Let's save that. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be recording another episode of Legends of Grayskull Offworld soon. And on that episode, we will be talking some Mythic Legions talk with that recent Legion Builder sale that went on. So we'll save that for there. We'll get Jesse in on it. Guys, if you haven't yet, please check out our Legends of Grayskull Offworld episodes. They're a lot of fun. We're up to 4 of them now. So, yeah, check them out. It's where we go to different universes besides Masters of the Universe. Sean, take us away, buddy. Take us home.
All right. Take us home. All right. Don't forget to hit the like button if you liked our video. Subscribe, ring that bell. Every time that we put up a new video, you'll get the notification. You can geek out with us for 1 to 3 hours, depending how long it is.
Usually close
like our page. Oh yeah, we are very verbose individuals. Join our group on Facebook, Legends of Grayskull Podcast. On there, we have a little community where we like to geek out about He-Man and share all sorts of different things, from artwork to the latest news that's coming out as fast as we can get out to the fans. Go on if you have any questions, comments, geek them. You can also find us there to do that, as well as logpod85@gmail.com. We have one person so far that loves the email, and they are awesome to hear from. So you can be a part of that group as well. And we are on Patreon if you want to go there. We're going to put up some Patreon episodes this year, too. That'll be a resolution of ours.
Yes, it is.
To do that. And join us there as well. It'll help the podcast. Also, on any podcast app that you are listening to us, hey, put up a rating. Give us a review. Let us know what you like. Let us know if this is working for you. We have a few reviews on the Apple Podcast app. I think we're up to 11 ratings. So add on to that since it's the anniversary of our podcast this month.
Hit all the hearts, stars, horseshoes, clovers, blue moons, whatever.
All of it. Yep. Blue diamonds, yellow, and purple horseshoes. Yes. Anyway, no, General Mills is not funding our podcast in any way, shape, or form. We're probably going to get cease and desist for that.
We would be open to it, though. If you're interested in supporting us, let us know. We are open to sponsors.
Exactly. So, until next time.
Until next time, guys, support fake information.
Oh, come on. Rock! Oh, bear. Oh.